Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Use code DNVR when you sign up for a new account to get amazing odds boosts every single day. Meghan, Rudo, AJ coming at you live. It finally happened.
Oh, wait, this Avs.
What?
Somebody wanted somebody else's pod. He was not here
Did
for
we get the
hockey.
title wrong? Did it mess stuff up? Or are we the Avs?
I said Evan Rodrigues and Avalanche.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, that's hard to mess that one up. Look, the Avalanche world has been waiting for almost 2.5 months.
Is this the latest
It feels really late.
first NHL signing from the Avs in like forever? Because this is the first UFA that they have
wasn't
signed.
an extension, technically.
This is the first UFA that they have signed that we know will be an NHL regular.
That's a good point.
All the others are, well, maybe Brad Hunt is a villain or whatever.
Even like Bleed is like maybe he's the 13th
Exactly.
forward.
You're like,
yeah.
well, we have no idea about these guys, right? Like Sedlak, we don't know, maybe. But Evan Rodrigues definitely will be a Colorado Avalanche, will definitely be on the NHL team, not a Colorado Eagle. Sorry. Even though he'd be great down there.
No, they're too crowded.
But
He was a defenseman, maybe. But
Nichushkin was August 19th.
yeah, so this is significantly
Yeah,
later.
this is not even 2 weeks. 2 full weeks before training camp. This is less than 2 weeks.
It's interesting because you get to that stage and usually it's PTOs.
Yeah, as we've seen, all these other dudes out there signing PTOs. You know, the Calvin DeHaans of the world, which that was a bummer. But of course,
Can't win them all.
Of course, it was Carolina. Of course, it was. But no, the PTOs that have just been flying around the league, and then Evan Rodrigues is like, all right. I mean, several days ago, it looked like he was headed to Anaheim, where everybody was like, "Oh, he's a Duck," and it was like, "Oh, all right, the Ducks just keep doing interesting things."
They're an
like
interesting
that.
team this year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they keep doing this, keep doing that, and then the Avs were like,
Nah.
which makes you really wonder how long did the offer? How long was this offer out there from them?
Sure. Did they throw this out in July 1 and he was like,
yeah,
we'll see.
exactly. Like, what kind of offers did he pass up to sign in Colorado?
Yeah.
Because really, for a guy like Rodrigues, who had a career year, age 29, has never signed a pro contract longer than 2 years. Never. This is a guy that you know was dying for some stability, some security, some sort of validation that he is that guy.
Yeah.
Did not get it. And, okay, I can go and play for the Ducks, but if it goes sideways, what happens? How much did his experience with the Sabres instruct him to stay away from a team like Anaheim?
Sure.
Whereas the one great year that he had, he blossomed in Pittsburgh
With a good team.
with opportunity, with good players surrounding him. You know, his 3 most common line mates with the Pens last year. Any idea?
Nope.
Kasperi Kapanen, Sidney Crosby, and Jake Gensel.
Yeah, that feels pretty good. Feels pretty good.
Really hard to underperform that kind of talent around you.
And that's the thing is that so I wrote about it, and really one of the few times that I'll say you really, really should go read that piece. It's not a typical, they have signed a guy piece. I really broke down kind of the conundrum that he presents. Because on paper, you say analytically, he was excellent last year. He drove play. He was great defensively. So analytically, checks a box. They have an obvious need at 2C. He scored 43 points in 82 games last year. It's not great, but a 40-point guy. Something the Avs currently do not have sitting in that 2C option between Alex Newhook, Ben Myers, JT Compher. 0 40-point players in that mix.
Yep.
So there's something. And 19 goals, a career high, and not on a career high shooting percentage. He shot 7.8% last year. So you're talking
Some level of sustainability there.
right.
Yeah.
And so you're saying, okay, where are the red flags here? What is it that I'm worried about? Why? And I would say that what I'm worried about is probably why he was in the market as long as he was.
Sure.
And why teams were not willing to give him the deal. about a third of the shots on goal that he's had in his entire NHL career came this last year. He was 29th in the NHL. 29th in shots on goal.
Yep.
He had 4 fewer shots on goal than Nazem Kadri. And he shot 7.8%, which is the big thing coming out of Pittsburgh, is that Pens fans, Pens people, reporters, whatever, will say, well, he couldn't finish.
7.8% is not that bad.
It's pretty bad for a forward. Among the every forward who had more than 200 shots on goal, only 3 players were worse.
Okay.
And 2 of those it was like 7.5.
Sure.
So they were
Marginally
just
worse. Yeah.
We're talking like 1 shot worse. The only guy who was actually like worse, then had 200 shots on goal was Mikael Backlund, who shot 5%. 5%. Yeah. This is also how I learned Phil Kessel shot 4% last year. Because his name popped up on there. He
decided to only pass last year, yeah.
Well, he had like 170 shots on goal, something like that.
Did he really? That many?
Yeah, he had a decent chunk of shots on goal. He just couldn't score. So, anyway, with Rodrigues, and when I say it's not out of the realm of his shooting percentage, his career, 7.6%. So him shooting 7.8.
It's par for the course, yeah.
Not such a huge jump forward, but 19 goals. On paper, there's a lot to be excited about, because this is a guy, his basic, the basic skill set is it's such a very easy Avalanche fit, which is why we connected the dots before free agency even opened and said, Evan Rodrigues sure would be a guy to keep an eye on for the Avalanche. He just the speed.
Yeah.
Stylistically. The way that he moves pucks.
You look at
the
heavy
zone
volume
entries.
shooter like Nazem Kadri and a replacement for someone who plays that way.
Exactly. A guy who Rodrigues, this is the first time he'd ever gotten any kind of consistent burn in the top 6, and he had a career year. Now, it's a career year in a role he's never had before. That was a year that he couldn't even sustain within the season itself.
Sure.
Pre-All-Star game, 15 goals. Post-All-Star game, 4 goals.
Yep.
He had 32 of his 43 points
in the first half, essentially. Yeah.
Pre-All-Star game.
Yeah.
In the 40-some-odd games. I think it was 46 games before the All-Star break. So, and that's when Pittsburgh was hurt, and he was moved up in the lineup. Afterward, they got healthier. He moved down in the lineup naturally, but also his play warranted him moving down, as he lost some of those opportunities. He could not sustain that level of play. So it's a complicated...
Sure.
All of the math involved here is a little complicated, because you're saying this is a guy that he's a great fit. He's a great natural fit, but he's only done it once. Can he do it again? Now, the Avs, I had the same questions about Artturi Lehkonen when the Avs got him.
Yep.
Because he was in the midst of a career year, and was he going to really keep this up? And then his scoring pace was almost identical in Colorado during the regular season.
And then was a baller in the playoffs.
And then ticked up a little during the postseason.
Yep.
So there's comfort there. But Lehkonen also brought... Look, he's an ace PK guy. He's a great forechecker.
There are other assets there, sure.
There were other things that Lehkonen brought to the table. With Rodrigues, you're talking about really a guy that's not going to provide a lot for you on special teams.
Sure.
He played on their power play. He played on the Pens power play last year. Because of the injuries, he ended up with quite a bit of time. But that time was cut a lot as the year went on.
Yeah.
And was not a factor on the PK at all.
Well, so I'm curious here, because you've kind of shown both sides of the argument. Megan, is there one side you're leaning more toward, or do you think it's kind of be a middle area?
I think it is a middle area, but it leans positive because of how it responds to the Avalanche's needs. Because the way I framed it in my mind is, can he be better than JT Compher? And they profile very similarly, but he's like a JT Compher if Compher has proven with constant use in a middle top six role that he could hack it. And that's where JT Compher has struggled a bit. This is something that Evan Rodrigues within the last season has been able to demonstrate that he can hack with more continued use at that role. And I think that is going to at least be a safer bet than a Mikko at 2C or even a Newhook 2C. At least it's an option. And because of Rodrigues' versatility, he can be used a number of different ways if that's not exactly where he lands, that I have more comfortability with this there. And you look at where the Avalanche stood too. I think the fact that this was such a late signing is a testament to the comfortability that they had, that they didn't need to make any rash decisions and allowed the perfect fit to come to them. I even look at the Stasny and the Kessel contracts being kind of in the same range as this, and I see the big brain thinking that happened here, that they were just waiting for something of a better fit to come along and come to them in a way. That's kind of how I view it, as Rodrigues seeing the opportunity he has here to recreate something similar to what he had in Pittsburgh, because he was elevated by the talent that was around him, and he'll have something like that in Colorado as well. So that's where I see that it could lean positive, is some of those things that created his success last season will be there for him in Colorado to try again. And, you know, he's definitely not Nazem Kadri. I think everybody recognizes
Nazem Kadri is a Nazem Kadri.
It's not a one-for-one replacement, but it does
Those
respond.
two could end up a lot closer in production this year than people would expect.
I agree.
I actually like that take, because even Nazem Kadri had a career year coming to Colorado. His play was elevated. I think that something like that could happen with Rodrigues.
If Rodrigues has the same year, 43 points.
Yep.
19 goals. 43-point season, and Nazem Kadri he goes back to the guy that he was before. Calgary will have paid $7 million for Nazem Kadri to be a 55-point player, and Colorado will have paid Evan Rodrigues $2 million to be a 43-point player.
And this is...
Which is where their valuation bet was. We can't spend $7 million, because it's not just this year. It's $7 million on Nazem Kadri moving forward.
Indefinitely, essentially.
Where you expect decline. And that's where you plan for decline. But even in the 1-year window, you are getting a worse player in Evan Rodrigues.
Sure.
But the value could be so much better that when you're a cap team and you're chasing a Stanley Cup, you need guys that will outperform contracts. You need a $2 million player to be a $4 million player. You need a $4 million player to be a $6 million player.
And that's where, with this Erod deal, I think it would be a unbelievable disaster of a season for Erod to not live up to the contract that he signed.
Yeah, that's the other aspect of this, is that stability and security that he was looking for. Colorado is that rare competitive team that could put him in a position.
Yep.
Because I've talked about Landeskog, McKinnon, and Nichushkin staying together.
Sure.
Starting to start the season, which opens you up with the Finns, with Lehkonen and Rantanen, and who in the middle. Now, with Rodrigues in the fold, you could start with Evan Rodrigues.
Yep.
You could start with Alex Newhook, which we've also talked about. The thing that Rodrigues doesn't just walk in and, your 2C job is fixed.
Sure.
It's just decided. It's done.
There's definitely still a level of competition rotation there.
There's going to be something that has to be earned, but what we've seen is that the floor of Rodrigues as a player is a guy that fits Colorado style anyway, can help them if, say, Alex Newhook just earns the job. Okay, well, then your third line is some combination of Ben Myers, Evan Rodrigues, and JT Compher.
Yep.
It's a pretty annoying and speedy line for opposing teams to handle. And then you have this, goofy fourth line, old man retirement home thing with Cogliano and Helm, and then their
Logan O'Connor vibing along,
right? Their large angry adult son and Logan O'Connor,
their spiritual child,
Soul.
cut from the same mold, exactly, that's Like even if Rodrigues does not walk in and solve the 2C problem, he makes that forward core better because that gives you one more proven NHL player. You're comfortable here. You're not having a Sonny Milano. Even his best year was.
Well, that's I think the great point is it's a realistic expectation to ask Erod to be better than JT Compher. And he's making $2 million.
So there's a big difference between these two guys because they're both right shot.
Yep.
They're both guys that have kind of moved between center and wing in their careers.
Yep.
Their teams can't quite figure out which one he really is full time.
Sure.
And that's where his value is that when you're not
You
one.
don't know, it's versatility.
When you're not one, you're both in a team's eyes. So he is where he's going to separate is that analytically he's great defensively, consistently in his career. He's been on the right side of things. Now driving play, he's been more good than bad. The finishing of chances hasn't been great. He's not an incredible playmaker, but there's some of that there. Do you trust that with Arturi Lehkonen, who just got a 5-year deal, and your $9 million all-star right wing in Mikko Rantanen? Do you trust Evan Rodrigues to be able to handle that line, that responsibility, and keep that line moving, keep that line productive? Because if he can do that, $2 million is a comical steal.
It's an interesting spot because part of that role is, especially if they run a situation where Mikko's on that line, a big portion of that guy's job is you're saying, hey, just don't hold this line back.
That's the thing. Play through the guys.
Yeah.
Play through the talent. And I think that's where, as Megan had mentioned earlier, you're encouraged that he can do that because we saw him succeed playing through talent. I mentioned Kapanen.
Yep.
Crosby. Gensel. Those are pretty good hockey
He's
players.
not a stranger to playing with that talent.
Those are pretty good hockey. And when you go and you look, his wowies with those guys, Gensel and Crosby are a little bit better without him.
Sure.
But a guy like Kapanen was elevated a ton by playing next to Rodrigues. And Rodrigues on his own, very strong analytically. Well, and when you get into when you get into the micro stuff, how does he play the game? Where does his success come from? He's not a very physical player, but he plays hard. And he's not a guy that will drift through games.
Sure.
Like, there's a lot of guys that are very skilled, very good hockey players, but if they're not going that night, if it's not their night,
the Mikhail Grigorenkos of the world,
they can drift through games.
Yeah.
And Jared Bednar has long called them passengers.
Yep.
And that's a thing that you don't have a huge concern with Rodrigues in being. It'll happen, but he's a guy that should be able to consistently elevate the bottom of that roster at very worst.
Yeah.
Like, things don't work out. It's not a great fit. It's not going well for him. He's still going to be able to help them. And that's where you look at it and you say, it's not going to be hard for a guy to live up to a $2 million deal.
Right. And I do want to talk more about that, but we are brought to you by Breckenridge Brewery, the official beer of DNVR. They have the Hootenanny coming up October 8th and 9th, big bash of a party for their 32nd birthday.
We are all passengers in life at times.
No, I'm driving 2 buses.
Megan is anything but a passenger at the moment. Go on down to breckbrew.com for more info on the Hootenanny. You can also find their beer near you. Their location down in Littleton, the farmhouse, is dope. If you haven't been there, even if you're not going for the Hootenanny, just go check that place out if you're local. It's a super awesome place to just snack.
Have you ever
a beer.
seen pictures and videos from previous iterations?
I have.
Dude, it looks crazy.
Yeah.
I was looking at it last night and I was like, this is a really big party.
They go all out, man. It's like bordering on like festival level stuff.
Well, and anybody that's been to that location, that's been to the farmhouse,
Yeah.
knows like it's such a great spot to have a really fun
Yep.
like night out. And the area that they have out there, it's perfect for music like that.
Yeah. So check it out. Again, breckbrew.com for more info. You can get tickets now. You're going to want to go. Yahir's doing crazy stuff. But we are brought to you also by Athletic Greens.
YouTube ads.
Look, beer and Athletic Greens are perfect go-togethers. One of them is for the party, and one of them is to pick you up after the party. All right?
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah, both.
Yeah.
Athletic Greens, just one scoop of it every morning in your cup of water. You drink it, it gets you going, it helps boost your immune system. You can use it for pre-workout. It's got 75 different vitamins and minerals. Mineral, probiotics, adaptogens, all sorts of good stuff in it that are just more intelligent than I am to actually know what they are. But they're super awesome. It's super great. I know Megan uses it every day. Jesse's all about it too. So they're the healthy people on this beat while I sit here and eat wings at the bar every day. So.
Look, I had a banana for breakfast.
Well, healthy day, huh?
Making changes.
I had Reese's Puffs, so not quite the same level.
I love cereal.
Oh, yeah?
And I have to move. It's too much. There's too much sugar and too many cereals. That I have decided that
Gotta cut it out.
we're replacing cereal with eggs.
Eggs are good, though.
Not in milk, obviously. I'm not like
Got it.
putting them and then eating it like cereal. Just exactly. That face was perfect. Yes.
Anyway, don't put milk on your eggs. Have some Athletic Greens at the start of the day instead. You can go to athleticgreens.com/avalanche today to order yours. When you go over there, you get a year's supply of vitamin D with it, as well as 5 travel packs. So, whole bunch of good stuff for you. Take control of your health, boost your immune system, do all the good stuff with Athletic Greens. Again, this is athleticgreens.com/avalanche. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook.
I just love this bobblehead so much. The ice that he stands on. I keep
The
staring
clear
at it.
ice down there. Yeah. So I want to get into this conversation. Is this a competition from day one of training camp? Is this really a go out and earn it? Or do you think this is Evan Rodrigues as 2C and it's his position to lose?
I would like it to be more of a competition.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I see everyone in this scenario is highly motivated and would like for this to be a competition. But I
Okay.
just look at what I've seen from the Avs in the past, and I could see this being like, there's a goalie tandem, but Georgiev's the starter. And there's a 2C position, but Evan Rodrigues is going to fill that role. Where it could be changed. He could be unseated. But I just don't know if it's as open a competition as I would like to see it be.
I think it's also, because you mentioned that they're motivated, it's important to note Rodrigues, Comfer, Newhook, contract years.
Yep.
All 3 of them, contract years. Now, technically, Ben Myers too. Because the
Little
first year of
different.
his ELC
Yeah.
got
A little
burned.
time. Yeah.
But like, I'm not really seriously considering Myers for the 2C job until we just see more of him. But
Have a 30-point season
Yeah.
in the
I
NHL.
like
but
the
I mean,
kid. I
like-
don't want to see him fail at
right,
2C.
for sure. But it's like it just may not be a fair ask at this point.
Right.
Is what I'm saying. Where we're looking at the 3 likeliest candidates here are Comfer, Rodrigues, and Newhook, and that's where contract years for all 3 of them. But it's not just competition. It's these guys are all trying to get paid, and for 2 of these guys, they're UFA deals. So Newhook's like, oh, look, I'll be around next year. I'm fine, but those are guys that are trying to get, for Comfer, the next bit of security in his career. Where before he begins his Blake Como-esque journey through the league
Journeyman style.
on
Yeah.
on 3-year deals in free agency, like that's what Comfer's playing for this year. It's going into that, and then Rodrigues, as I mentioned, never signed a deal longer than 2 years. So that's a guy that's playing for even just as simple as his NHL future.
Right, he's 31.
Like it's not. It's funny because you don't think about him as like he hasn't been around consistently enough, but he's been like a bit player for such a long time
He
now.
didn't really fully break into the league until he was 25, 26.
Well,
so-
and even then, there was still, it was like he's arrived with Buffalo in I think it was 18, 19, I think. And then it was
something like that.
yeah, and then it was like he kind of he played 40 games. He played 30 games and this and that. The guy's 29 years old.
Yeah.
Like he's playing to prove that he's a guy that you can give multiple years to and be comfortable. Because this last year teams went, great, do it again. And that's
And he does it again, and then he
Him-
makes $4 million next.
well,
free
and him
agency,
choosing
but-
Colorado, like maybe that sets up where the Avs are just like, okay, like this worked out great. We'll be the ones to pay him. You know, maybe that's where they head, is that they
definitely
just
could go
it's,
that way.
It's such a
yeah.
great fit that they do just decide, okay, we're good. But this is the kind of signing that there's a reason the reaction around the NHL today was, God, come on, man.
The rich get richer,
Right,
yeah.
like when the Ducks were going to sign Evan Rodrigues, everybody was like, "Oh, it's interesting. That's an interesting pickup for them. I like that." The Avs do it, and everybody's like, "Dude,
Could you?
somebody
not?
couldn't have offered $3 million? Come on!" Because you do see the underlying numbers. You do see where the Avalanche have found this exact profile of player. Found the Chushkin and Arturi Lehkonen as recent examples that have gone very well. But you can see where, and at $2 million, somebody in chat mentioned earlier, that's what Nico Sturm got this year in free agency. Nico
if you're
Sturm
looking
got
at
2
that
years,
1 to
2
1,
million.
you've upgraded.
Tyson
a
Jost a
absurd
year
level.
ago.
Yeah.
Tyson Jost got $2 million as an RFA, and Evan Rodrigues has been quite a bit more productive than either of those guys.
There's no argument here. This is just numbers. He's
Yeah,
been a
and that's
significantly more productive
Not
player.
not even Rodriguez's best year, but his second best year is better than the seasons that either of those guys
by,
have put up.
by like a significant margin.
Yeah, and so this is a guy that he could have gotten paid in free agency, and when he didn't, the Avs get a great deal, right? Like the Avs get a great deal here. There's very, very low risk. The upside is pretty obvious. It's not like insanely high. I think 60 points.
If he gets 60 points, the Avs are defending. I'll
Yeah,
put it that
I
way.
would say the 60 points is probably a pipe dream, but scoring the way that it was last year, like who knows, right?
Look, the win here to me is if he gets 50 points, everybody's slam dunking, high fiving all the way around.
Oh yeah.
If he gets 30 points, you're cool. It's fine. He's not your 2C, but he's still valuable.
You'll still have to figure that part out. You'll still have to
Sure.
figure out who is the 2C if he doesn't take that job. He hasn't answered that question. But again, it's not so much about being obsessed with who's the 2C, who's the 2C, who's the 2C. Mm-hmm. Remember, the Avs got to the postseason last year and used lines they hadn't used the majority of the year. They go into the Stanley Cup final. They win the Stanley Cup with lines that didn't exist for them in the regular
first
season.
half of the cup, Kadri didn't play in.
Like, you know, and you look at their line like that we don't need to be so focused on who's the 2C, what the 2C this, 2C that. That is a fluid thing. Line combinations move around. There's the really big win here is that for a very reasonable price that they could easily afford, $2 million, right around $2 million in cap space remaining, and they spend $2 million on a guy that just undeniably he fits what they do, he fits their identity, he fits their style of play, and he's a guy eager to prove himself. He's not a guy resting on laurels and getting fat on an 8-year contract. This is a guy that's hungry, who's got to prove it, and
Megan,
it's just a great fit for the Avs.
I like the way you teed it up because outside of the 2C conversation, Andrei Burakovsky's production will need to be replaced somewhere in the lineup. And that is something that, if not 2C, Evan Rodrigues will at least be able to contribute in other ways, that this resolves more than just one problem. It can be it should be a solution to more than just one problem.
And I think we did touch on the versatility, but I think it's going a little undervalued here because...
because we've been centered on the 2C conversation. Correct. But yes.
But if Evan Rodrigues is playing well and Alex Newhook is breaking out, it's like, great. Now you have multiple options. Now you can mix and match. Maybe you want to put Mikko back on the top line. Maybe you want to create a hard shutdown third line with Val Nichushkin on it. You can do a whole lot of different things because I felt like one of the things the Avs kind of got stuck in a rut with last year was, okay, JT Compher's our versatility guy. He moves around the entire lineup. He fits in any hole we end up having. If now, instead of, it has to be JT Compher, the conversation becomes, well, we could put Erod there. Now Compher can stick on that third line. You can move Newhook around. Mm-hmm. Maybe Ben Myers is having a good stretch. Mm-hmm. It just...
It gives you two JT Compher.
Right, exactly.
Well, it gives you like JT Compher, who's the bad analytics JT Compher, and then the good
analytical.
I would say the guy that a lot of people think JT Compher is.
That's a good way to put it.
In Evan Rodrigues. Yeah. Because the big JT Compher fans out there either don't know or don't care that analytically he's been bad his entire career. And that he regularly drags down every single line combination that he's on, gets worse when he gets moved on to it. And this isn't even me saying he's a bad player. That's just facts of his career. He has a place in the NHL. As we saw in the postseason, he's a valuable guy to have because that random week where he gets really hot, if it comes in the end of round 2 and the start of your or all of the Western Conference Final, great. That is a great timing. You are happy with that. So you've got, you have a guy in Compher that can do a lot. You have a guy in Newhook that you're expecting more from, but this is more cushion if there isn't more there.
Yep.
This is more, and look, with Ben Myers and Alex Newhook, you could say, the positivity, the bright, could be this. Ben Myers could be a total nothing at the NHL level. Like, we don't think that's going to happen, but it's a possibility that he could just be a nothing in the NHL.
There's no track record yet.
And then you would have had no 2C answer, and then you would have a problem on your 3rd/4th line, kind of like whatever it ends up being, because those lines are kind of interchangeable for Bednar anyway, depending on game situation and how they play. Like, Darren Helm, Andrew Cogliano, and Logan O'Connor are going to be in games where they are ahead,
using as the third line. So
that they're going to get more ice time when they're ahead than in games where they are chasing.
Yep.
Protecting leads. They're going to be like, Bednar's going to be like, veterans. Like, I've got to play them. He'll probably put Compher with those guys and replace LOC just so we can get even more veteraniness.
Veteraniness.
Yeah. It's a trait.
It'll happen. I know that it'll happen, but I'm just imagining like Jared Bednar needs to make some kind of special sauce for cooking that's just called veterans.
All right, it's got dark.
I'm not saying turn them into sauce, but like, what does the veteran sauce taste like? Is it aged finely, a little musty?
Soylent Green.
Sour cream?
No, Soylent Green.
Soylent Green. No, it doesn't have to be human. Darren Helm doesn't need to go into the wood chipper Rudo. After his career. Come on. All right. Forget it. We're moving on. We are brought to you by Evoca TV. You can go over to evoca.tv/Colorado10. That's evoca.tv/Colorado10 to get your TV for the next 3 months for just $15 a month and only $25 a month after that. It's got Altitude. It's got AT&T Sportsnet. It's got the national channels. It's got NFL Network. Every major sport in the States, you're covered for the Colorado stuff at least. It's also got movie channels if you want to go watch some Soylent Green. If you're into that, I won't question it. It's got TV channels as well, 60 channels in total, including the DNVR channel. So you can watch us right now on your TV through Evoca TV. if that's what you wanted to do. Jump on it today. Again, avaca.tv/Colorado10. Just $15 a month for the first 3 months and only $25 a month for TV indefinitely. So way cheaper than your other options. Also brought to you by American Raptors, the rugby team down at Infinity Park in Glendale. It's Rugby Town, USA. If you didn't know, the men's and women's 15 teams both practice at Infinity Park, which are the best teams in the country. So,
how do we fit Rugby Town into the state of Hockey Town?
yeah, it gets tough. Look, just at a certain point, if the Nuggets could do the thing, either one, Nuggets or Broncos, just one of them do the thing in the next couple of years. And at what point do we just come the state of sports town?
State of sports town.
I'm good with that.
Let's
that
go.
Sounds cool.
Yeah.
Jokic is going to win a chip.
We're going to need way more than Mount Rushmore.
Like 7 Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
It's just...
It's gonna be hard. Good thing we have a mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Coming
He
for you,
faced
Pikes
the
Peak.
it's how is it 21 14ers?
I think so.
Something like 23 maybe?
Each one.
Yeah, every 14er needs a face. It's good to go.
The last one's just the DNVR logo.
Anyway, go check out a game at Infinity Park in Glendale if you haven't been. You can go to American Raptors games, go to AmericanRaptors.com and get tickets completely free. It's a great night out on the town. The park is amazing. If you've never been to Infinity Park, it's beautiful. Go check it out.
God, it's so nice.
Yeah, it's insane.
Such a nice facility to just be like, yep, it's Sunday morning, like
Yep.
11 a.m.
Vibing.
Sun's right on top of you, and it's just like, yeah, this is pretty sweet.
You can also follow Colton Strickler and the DNVR Rugby account on Twitter if rugby is your jam. He's got 101 pods for new people and also is the best at getting everyone in that world to interview with him.
Enviable access, to say the least.
He talks to everybody in the rugby scene. So go check out that stuff. All right. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. So I think we're safely set with the Avs starting lineup, assuming health at this point now. Everyone had kind of been sitting around waiting for the Avs to make one more move. You have your top 6D. You have your goalies. You pretty much have 12 forwards now. You know, does Anton Bleed slide into the lineup? Maybe. But
Yeah, so this is where you're getting your value out of Curtis McDermott.
Yeah.
Because you say, okay, we've got our 12 forwards that we like. We've got our 6 defensemen that we really like. And then we have Curtis McDermott,
Yep.
who's 13-7.
Right.
But you're only paying him one contract. You're only paying him $1 million, and he's both of
To
those
be
guys
two
for
roles,
you.
yeah.
And that's where you're saying, look, for as much as Curtis McDermott's value, I'm like, come on, what are we doing here? Like,
I agree.
but this is a smart way to utilize your roster space. Is that you get a guy that you're comfortable who can play both positions for you in a pinch in case of minor injury, illness, whatever. That's a guy that's there. And then you do go down the road, you know, the other defensemen, you know, Brad Hunt, Jacob McDonald, you know, we'll see, whatever. Yeah. My man Danila Zhravalov gonna surprise everybody and take that job.
I hope so. But I mean,
Megan is skeptical.
I feel so bad. I have to change that. I don't have a great attitude about him.
We'll see how the rookie showcase helps.
I actually really like your take on it because AJ and I have been watching him for years in the KHL. And the KHL is a very different league than North America. He's come over to North America, and your impression of him there is, oh, this isn't good. He has not been good in North America. So it's a genuine concern that I will see which side comes out of it.
That's where I'm at, is I really want to wait and see because I usually, every prospect endears themselves to me. So I want to give him some time to actually play in games outside of dev camp. That's not fair to him. I'm going to wait.
Very prospect mom of you to put it that way.
I have concerns.
And look, that's the reality of these Russian guys sometimes, especially defensemen. Sometimes they come over and look good, and sometimes they come over and get their doors blown off. It happens. So
Andrei Mironov looked pretty competent for like 4 games, and then he was a total train wreck for the other 6.
Yep, it was not good.
It was an intense experience because it was only extremes. It wasn't like
there was
the guy
no
came
middle.
in and you were like, I didn't even really notice him that much. It was like real good and real bad. It was like, oh my god, man. Yeah. But I mean, getting back to this, I just think really their NHL lineup should be set, and it should be. I mean, you look at it and you like Rodrigues. If he could repeat last year, you would take that. And you want it smoothed out a little more. You don't want 15 goals early and then 4 goals late. Although he was good in the playoffs too. He had 5 points in that series against the Rangers.
The Rangers, yeah.
But it was that's a situation where you feel like we've got our roster. These are our guys. This is what we're going in with. And then you are open to competition for, between Sedlak and Charles Hudon and Anton Bleed and Mikhail Maltsev and
let's be
Martin
real.
Kaut and Jason Megna and Sampo Ranta and Oscar Olsen and Jean-Luc Foudy and all these guys are in this huge cluster together.
And that's at some point in the season, unless you're the Calgary Flames of last year, at some point in the season you're going to play a game where you're down 2 or 3 forwards. So
That's the Calgary Flames.
Yeah,
It's
right.
so true, it's so true.
You're gonna miss guys throughout portions of the season. So any number of those guys you just listed are going to get opportunities to be in the lineup.
Might be
Counting
all of
on
them.
it.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I know.
Yeah, but which ones are you counting on?
Don't make me. It's like ask you to pick your favorite child.
Yeah.
I'll just say all of them. Yeah,
All
that's
of
that's.
them.
I was my mom's favorite. She won't admit it, but
Oh, yeah, you're the baby. Like, of
Yeah.
course you're the favorite.
take that, Nick and Libby.
My baby sister was absolutely the favorite too. There was never any doubt on that front. Anyway, going into this, I think another interesting conversation with it is, yes, they have addressed the 2C spot to a certain level. We talked about the competition, but they got them for $2 million. They left themselves roughly $2 million in cap space, and no doubt will do finagling things to accumulate more over the season.
There could be, and if they don't use the extra defenseman, because that counts Andreas England on the
Right,
roster.
so it's more like 2.5, 2.7.
it would be
whatever,
like $2.6 million
Yeah.
if they don't use that roster spot at all.
Yep. So there's a good portion of money there for them to have some flexibility when it comes to deadline time. And that's a total reassessment based on where the team is at that point. But
An asset that they could use in a deal if they wanted to with a guy like Rodrigues.
with the 1-year
where they
deal,
were
it's an
saying-
easy flip. Yeah.
Where they, and that's a case where you would say, they don't say it hasn't worked out great.
Sure.
Where you could say, okay, hey, we need a little bit of money going back the other way. You guys could take a look at him with, in your organization, in your system, it hasn't gone the way we hoped. Like that there would be a way that guy could be involved in a deal that could help you get an asset that you either like or a draft pick or something.
Yeah.
Come deadline if you wanted to do something like that.
Sure.
So because he should be able to help you. Although the one downside of coming to Colorado is that there is really no excuse.
Yep. You got to perform.
There's no because if he goes to Anaheim and he's not very good, somebody's gonna be like, yeah, but he was on Anaheim. Anytime somebody doesn't have a great year on a bad team, it's the team's fault.
Sure. I get you.
Like, well, but Jack Gibson hasn't been good but he's been on Anaheim. You're like, okay, we got it. Like, there's no
Is that
excuse.
what I sound like to you?
No, that's not. That's collectively what I think that YouTube chat sounds like sometimes.
AJ throwing it out there.
Depending on who's in it on any given day, that's what it sounds like to me. When it's it's one of those like weird sports pet peeves that I have when people make excuses for players playing poorly on bad teams. Where you're like, part of the reason that the team is bad is that guy played poorly. right? Like, come on. Like, the Ducks would have been fine the last couple of years if John Gibson had been the John Gibson that everybody
They're
thinks
about
he
to
is.
pop off, first
So-
of all.
You're a believer?
Throw some respect. They're about to go show out.
Who, the Ducks?
Yeah.
Okay.
But speaking of the
I'm
Ducks,
so excited for them to show out to 7th in their division
Let's
and pick
go.
6th overall again. It's going to be a great year for them.
it's
Go
a good
Ducks.
segue for the Milano conversation and why a Milano, in my opinion, wasn't a good fit. And I still maintain that Rodrigues is the best of the options that were on the table.
Well, when you're comparing them, there's really the thing with Sonny Milano was that we talked about him at the start of free agency,
Yeah.
and the reason that we kind of geared it down was because they don't need another guy to play the wall for them. They don't need an offense first kind of playmaking wing that's not
Top 6 is full, bud. Sorry.
right.
Yeah.
Like it's like they just didn't need that, and that's kind of his profile. And a guy like Rodrigues, there was a reason that we talked about him so much, is that his profile made sense. And as things came into shape and guys signed elsewhere, it made less and less sense for a guy like Sonny Milano. Now, I'll say that, and they'll give the guy a PTO or something, and I'll be like, "This is a great deal." But like for a PTO, like I have a hard time believing PTOs are ever a bad deal.
Well, it's about expectations, right? You go out and sign
Yeah.
a guy in the situation the Avs were in with the holes in their lineup. If you sign Sonny Milano in the first week of free agency, you're saying, okay, this guy's at very least going to be in the competition for a top 6 role.
Right. Well, there's an expectation when you prioritize.
Yeah.
Hey, we want to bring that guy in.
Right.
Like you brought him in for a reason. You brought him in seeing a clear job for him.
Yep.
A PTO, you're like, let's see how this goes.
Yeah. Maybe he earns the bottom 6 role.
And a lot of times PTOs are like what it was with Jack Johnson last year, where it was, let's just see if this guy's healthy.
Yep.
Because if he's healthy, we like the player. Same thing. Who was the old forward last year that they cut? Who was their
Anisimov.
PTO? Thank you. Artem Anisimov, you could see, wasn't healthy, couldn't move, didn't have it anymore. That's what a PTO was for.
Yep.
Is Jack Johnson and Artem Anisimov were the
two
examples
outcomes.
of why of why you give a PTO to a guy, where you're like, give a PTO to a guy, he's he's healthy, he looks fine. Okay, great. He's got a role, and it was a bigger role than any of us expected he would get, but they were also hurt all year.
They played one regular season game with their proper top 6. Full
It
6, I should
it was
say.
so ridiculous, man. And then, Anisimov was clearly done and clearly washed to the point where it was like, look, no.
Not all that different than the Jared Cowan PTO a couple years
Good
before
Jared
that,
Cowan
yeah.
PTO. There have been a couple over there. Curtis Glencross had that PTO with the Avs where you remember he had scored, he'd had a couple of 20-goal seasons, and it felt like half of them came against the Avs. And then the Avs on a PTO, and it was just like,
this is not,
ugh.
you can't do it anymore. Yeah.
Yeah, and the Avs have had a lot of PTOs that come at the Borks. They had Rennie and Gabe in the same year. Jack Skilly was another guy that was brought in on a PTO that worked out. And there have been, Mazzaros was a guy that they brought in on a PTO that just
that never really
did not work out. Yuri Talusti could not pass his physical.
That was a weird one.
That was a weird one because he didn't pass the physical, but he was listed on the roster. And when we asked where he was, Jared Bednar just goes, "Well, he didn't pass the physical." So, and we were like, "Okay, so is he going to try it again tomorrow?" And he was like, "No, he's just gone." Oh, is he dead then? Like, what the?
What did you do to him?
They do an autopsy? Or?
Was there a real punishment for not passing the physical? What the hell happened, dude? It was just, and then the next day he wasn't on the roster anymore, and it was like, okay then. I hope he's not dead.
Went into the veteran sauce.
Yeah, exactly. That was where the veteran sauce churn began. Yeah. It started with poor Yuri Talusti, man. But no, like that's where there are probably still some guys out there. Blake Como is retiring.
He's done. Yeah.
I believe he's hurt still. So I would be pretty surprised if he signed anything.
So,
Anyway, point is
Yeah.
that this should finish them out. I still want to see a PTO or two because
Wouldn't
I think
surprise me.
I think they're
Yeah.
healthy for
Yeah.
one, because you get a guy in there that's fighting for everything.
competition
Right.
is never bad.
Exactly,
Yeah.
and it puts a little jolt into some of these guys, where you're just like, ooh, like, okay, we're fighting for something here. You know, it could kick a guy like a Myers or a Newhook into a different gear immediately to get them. You know, hey, those guys need to be fighting from day one anyway. But you never know. You never know when a guy starts to feel like, hey, I made it. I'm comfortable here.
Yeah.
So that's Victor Rask could be exactly the kind of PTO I would look at. Although I don't know where that guy would fit. You know what? Maybe I haven't looked, but maybe he can win a face-off because there's this one thing Evan Rodrigues isn't going to help you with.
Yeah, it's not.
He's a
fair.
right
It's-
shot, but he's 47% in his career in 2,000 face-offs.
It's very on brand. for the
Yeah,
Avs.
like he plays the game really well, loses face-offs.
Well, that just fits the Avs brand. So
Yeah,
it's
so
fine.
it's the point being made is he doesn't need to win. You don't need to win a face-off. You can just go take the puck and skate down the ice with it.
I'm curious. I want to
top
get
speed.
Megan's take on this a little bit because I'm curious where you balance the PTO versus opportunity for internal options.
I have kind of closed the door on internal options, and it's
Okay.
just historically how I've seen the prospects used. And I'm thinking in terms of making an opening night lineup. It's
Sure.
not like they
Yeah,
wouldn't be subject to call-ups throughout the season. I still think
Right.
that window will be open. So it's hard for me to imagine that being given to an AHL Eagles current player over a PTO guy if that PTO guy is a more established full-time NHLer.
I agree with you. I'm just curious, and I know there were injuries involved, but obviously they gave the time to Ranta last year. They gave the Newhook the one game at least, but
I fear Ranto as a cautionary tale. I actually
Yeah.
think that will influence why they wouldn't do that this year.
He's going to be their face of why
this
they
is
gave
why
up
we
on
don't do
prospects.
this.
And I feel bad for everyone involved.
It was like Jared Bender went on Twitter and was like, "You want a rookie? You're gonna
I'll
get a
give you
rookie,
a
and he's
rookie."
gonna play, and then he's gonna play, and then I'm not taking him out." And then he plays 10 whole games, and then he was like, "I made my point." We just lost 7 of those.
Don't
things.
ever do this to me again.
Don't ever say I never did this, AJ.
AJ.
So
I've been critical of this for about this organization
Yeah.
for like 10 years.
first pod we ever did together was about prospects. So
Remember when there were 30 of them to go through?
yeah, it was a different time, and we were still like, "There's 30 of them, but they haven't graduated one since 2009."
Well, and then it got complicated because it was
Yeah.
like guys like JT Comfer and Nikita
Right,
Zadorov.
who are prospects but came from outside the org.
Right,
and
like they
it's
weren't drafted, but the Avs developed them,
Yeah.
and then like Logan O'Connor happened, and so
Yeah.
you're like, okay, so they could trade for prospects from other teams. They could sign undrafted guys and get an NHL player out of them, but they can't draft a guy with a top 50 pick that's not in the first round. Somewhere between 30 and 60, they lose their ability to do this. And then it was like Connor Timmins, hoorah! And then
injuries and trade.
and then like he finally started to turn the corner, and you're like, Timmins, yes.
See ya.
Enjoy Arizona. Oh, great, another injury. It was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, this is so stupid."
He's cursed. I think
number
we're in
18,
agreement
man.
that Myers is on the Avs roster.
Oh, yeah,
on
he's
opening
in
night.
the
I
lineup.
think for
He's
the
in the
purpose
lineup.
of
There
chat,
is
he's outside the discussion.
All I will say is there is a 0% chance, that the most sought after college free agent signed with a team that did not guarantee that he will be in the NHL, at least to start the year.
I think he's even confirmed as much too when
Like,
he talks
there
about
is-
coming here.
No shot in hell they gave him that deal, burned a year of the ELC, gave him bonus money in the last 10 games of the regular season to then turn around and be like,
What if we don't
Loveland's
play him
nice
anymore?
this time of year.
maybe he's an Eagle. boy, Jason Megna makes you think.
No, I can't handle
So
this.
yeah, no.
If
Ben
Coutts got
Myers will make the
15
team.
points in the first 5 games. Maybe we're having this
I
conversation.
see there is a tier. Like there's a Maltsev Kaut tier, and then there's younger prospects right beneath it.
It feels like Maltsev and Kaut are the
Yeah.
two guys where you're like,
These are the ones
these are the guys
they
that
want.
they
Yeah.
should be in like first in line.
Yep.
Not only because of any level of acumen, those are your two best AHL players.
Yep.
That are like young
At
and,
least
and
forwards,
like
yeah.
translatable.
Definitely.
Not necessarily your two best. Like last year was like Dylan Sakura and Kiefer Sherwood.
Yep.
But then they would get to the NHL and you're like,
They can't do anything here. Yeah.
Sherwood is kind of fucking terrible. That one goal that he scored in LA was sick though. That turnaround wobbler.
It
The
was
best shot of all time.
Yeah.
Frankie's reaction on the bench. Pure joy. Happy for his Eagle son.
Yeah. I feel like that's just like his existence.
He's
I think you're right. I
absolutely
think
the
he's just
Eagles'
joyful.
Yeah. Daddy Eagle.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
Every prospect mom needs a prospect dad, even
Eagle-
if it's a stepdad, all right?
Eagle
It's
dad?
fine.
Like,
We've really gone off the rails.
I'm
The
just
veteran sauce.
curious.
Once we hit 50 minutes, the
Daddy
show just
Eagle.
goes.
I just want to know what's like. We need to ask Frankie his thoughts on this.
Actually, I
Are
do want to
you Daddy
clarify
Eagle?
the
Eagle
pronunciation
Dad?
of his last name because I have heard multiple iterations of it now.
I gave up.
I'm going back, but maybe I can broach the conversation. I'm kidding. I won't be doing that.
I asked him after his NHL debut.
He's telling us all different things.
Yeah, well, so I asked him after his NHL debut, and he goes, "You can just call me Pavel." And I was like,
But I need to talk about you.
I was like, dude, that's the cutest answer I've ever heard. Stop being so freaking likable. However, I already know how to say Pavel. Okay? The pronunciation is either Pavel or Pavel. It doesn't really change a whole lot here.
It's not Francouz to Francois.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he told me Francois was fine.
That's not a hard yes.
So, but also like some of these guys also don't care.
Yeah, like
Because
Nico, yeah.
yeah, well, because Zadorov was always like, "Whoa, it's Zadorov.
Yeah, but that's an easy one, though.
You
'cause
call me
can just call-
Zadorov. I don't care.
Well, and with him, you just call him
Okay.
Z, and it's like, you're fine.
I can't do that anymore."
Well, you got a different
Yeah.
Z.
Great
Yeah.
point.
Yeah,
And Zadorov doesn't play here anymore, so you're
Yeah.
fine. It's good.
Zadorov used to heckle me so much about player grades.
Really?
Yeah, he used to there, and then one day I was under siege, man. I walked in, and it was a game they won, so they were all feeling good, right? And I walked in, and Zads is like, "AJ, why you give Tyson a D?"
Oh,
And I'm like, I don't know why I'm making him sound like he's Zangief or something, but he was like, why you give Tyson a D? And Barry like looks at me and he's like, "Yeah, man, I thought I took care of my own zone pretty well." And I was like, "Dude, you got crushed in shot metrics and you scored no points. That's your primary job." And he was like, "But I'm a defenseman." I was like, "You're an offensive defenseman." And then Landy was like, "Oh, you're going to tell him how to do his job?" And I was like, "You guys are telling me how to do my job."
fight.
And like, I was under siege. It was such bullshit, man.
Barry's been known to wrestle, from what I've heard. So
It was messed up. I was like, "Come on."
yeah.
Just memories. I wore my Islanders hat to practice one day because I had gone somewhere. I'd never done it. I'd made a point
Yeah.
of never doing it. And then one day I was out. I did a bunch of errands,
And
went
just had
to
it,
practice
yeah.
and had it on. I forgot about it. Walked into the locker room and Landeskog was like, "AJ,
What are you doing?
why are you wearing an Islanders hat?" And Joe Colburn goes, "I don't think I've ever seen that before." Like a reporter covering a team wearing the hat of another team. And I was like, fuck. It was bad. Yeah. And then I don't remember who, I think it was John Mitchell that was sitting next to Joel Colburn. I think it was John, and was like, "Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think I've seen that either. I was like, God damn, I'm such an unprofessional idiot. Made sure to never do it again. And that's when I started wearing the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles beanie.
There you go. Problem solved.
Crowd pleaser.
Okay.
It was a good transition.
So, but since we're off the rails, we can wrap it up here.
Look, we're getting back into locker rooms. As,
Yeah.
as we found out in the last few days, we are expecting to get back into locker rooms and have like interactions like that again. And certainly Jesse and I are very excited about it.
We haven't addressed where Jesse is. The chat has asked several times.
Jesse's wherever he wants to be right
Yeah,
now.
Jesse. Yeah.
He's not at the veteran sauce. He's just
Right now,
next door.
he's making the veteran sauce
No,
right now.
he's not.
Cooking it up.
I'm dispelling all rumors. He's just next door.
Yeah, making the veteran sauce.
The bar has a big cauldron.
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah. He's chanting.
Oh, yeah. There's definitely some sort of spell work being done.
Absolutely. He's got crystals and shit. sitting by.
Yes. Okay, but for real, final thoughts on Erod here.
I mean, this is your classic high value signing that if it works out in the best case scenario, it's a slam dunk. If it works out in the worst case scenario, it still probably isn't that big of a deal for you. There's like almost no realistic world in which it's like an F. Like the worst case scenario is that this is kind of this year's Ryan Murray deal.
Yep.
Where he gets hurt and it does not play a big role on the team and kind of just becomes a spectator to history.
Agreed.
Yeah, I feel like we had a conversation recently, like, are the Avs done? Are we okay if they are? And I was of the thinking, sure, that's fine with me. Yeah. And this is better. So I'm at peace with it. I think it's better than the alternative I was previously okay with. So I like it.
The very binary way to look at it is, did the Avs make themselves better today? And I think the answer is 90% probably.
Yeah. I think the answer is yes. Did they answer their biggest question is still a very much TBD.
Sure.
So we'll see. We'll see about that part of it, but I don't, and at $2 million, there can't be any kind of an argument that a guy who scored 19 goals and 43 points is getting overpaid at $2 million.
Right.
For sure. So we'll see. We'll see. Maybe the Avs go some PTOs. Who knows? But at this point, this week, the Avs are back on the ice. At least they're rookies on Thursday. So
yep. We will be hanging around
FSC
at the rink
on Thursday. Yeah.
Just to give people a heads up tomorrow.
Yeah, I was gonna.
Okay. Well, I'll let you do it.
Yeah. So we promised a show about hockey culture, and it's going to be a serious show that we're going to talk about tomorrow. I think it's something important to talk about and something we want to talk about. But I understand a lot of people come to this show and want it as an escape. If that's your thing, if you're not interested in that conversation, go ahead and skip tomorrow's show. If you want to have the conversation, which I think you should, if you want to hear about it, if you want to be a part of it, tune in tomorrow. Just know we will be talking about Team Canada and the sexual assault situation going on there. We will be talking about
trigger warnings all over the place for people.
Absolutely. So there will be some serious topics broached on the show tomorrow. Yeah. Just be aware of that.
And then we'll get right back to talking about veteran sauce and all kinds of nonsense on Wednesday.
Yep.
And we'll be, we'll be transitioning into normal coverage for us. Yep. Which won't be normal this year because it's going to be a lot better.
Well,
but our normal is better than everybody else's, so that's what's up.
Dunk on them.
Anyway, go Broncos tonight. Seahawks fans. Suck it. Yeah, there you go. Suck it is a good way to put it. Russell Wilson. It's an exciting time. I did think this morning, I did laugh to myself. This is a thing that the Avs could have done any time in the last 5 weeks. They waited till Broncos game day to be like, hey, remember us? We're still the champs in this town. We still run this shit. And then,
things happen.
The Broncos are like, are you serious? This is a Broncos town.
It's football season, but back it up.
Exactly.
Anyway, we're going to get out of here for the day. We appreciate all y'all. Y'all were hungry for some Erod stuff. A lot of you today. We will talk to you tomorrow, or if not then, after that, we will see you on the next one.